Hi everybody, welcome to our first Friday feature. We've decided to actually feature a product every Friday for you, just so that you know what we have on our online store and also how we use these products. Now, one of the questions that I do get quite a bit is, what do I do to stabilize my fabrics? Now, I've got certain tips and tricks that just certain tricks that I always do just to make my sewing so much easier. And I'm just going to go through everything that I use so that you can see how I stabilize, what I use for my interfacing. And then if you actually follow along and do the same things, you're going to find that it is so much easier for you as well. Now, first off, I'm going to talk just about iron-on interfacing. Now, I know we've got a lot of new people that's following at the moment, so I just wanted to talk about interfacing. Now, with the interfacing or iron-on interfacing, we get paper interfacing and we get a fabric interfacing. Now, my paper interfacing is perfect if I'm going to be doing crafts in there. But remember, my clothing, that fabric, I keep washing it, I might be tumble drying it. I need to work with a fabric interfacing so that it reacts the same as what my fabric is going to react. And that way I also know that I'm going to have a garment that I've sewn that's going to be lasting me for a very long time. I just found from my experience when I used the paper interfacing, just when I started sewing, after a couple of washes, that paper almost made little balls on the inside of my collars, and that it's almost as if the paper started disintegrating. And when I moved over to my fabric interfacings, I'm telling you, I will never ever go back to paper interfacing again when I'm sewing my garments. Now, when we're also looking at the interfacing, if you've never worked with interfacing before, you will find that on your interfacing, the one side actually feels nice and smooth like your fabric. The other side has got a slightly rougher feel, almost as if it's got a bit of a sugary feel, a granular feel on it. And that is the glue side, and that is the part that I've got to put onto my fabric, and then I will iron it or press it onto my fabric. I'm also someone that I don't just press with my iron directly on it. I've got a pressing cloth just to protect my iron as well, because if it is more of a sheer interfacing, I just find that the gluiness eventually builds up on the sole of my iron. So I do like to use a pressing cloth. I've actually got a silk organza that I use for pressing. So that is all you've got to really look for, is if you're going to start using interfacing, if you're brand new to it, make sure you've got the gluey side to your fabric and not up, because you're going to actually put that whole piece of interfacing onto your iron and you're going to battle to get it off. And also be aware of the heat. Don't immediately go and just use a high heat. Some of those interfacings out there will actually melt a little bit, so just be careful of that. Now, when I look at my interfacings that I use, I've got two now that I actually decided is my go-to interfacings. I've tried so many different ones, and we've sourced a couple as well just to try them. And now we are stuck on these two. Now, the first one is a knit interfacing. I just wanted to get it here. We've got it in a white and in a black. It's got quite a lot of stretch to it, which makes it perfect to work with my knit tops that I'm working, or any knit garments that I'm working with for facings, or even if I'm going to do a collar, even if I might be doing buttons on that garment. Sorry. So this one, let me just show you. You can actually see it is quite a sheer interfacing. Let's just lift it like this and look at the stretch that I do have. It's got a lot of stretch. Now, this one for me, I've started using in my hems, any hems that I'm doing on my knits, because I can go and cover stitch it. I can go and use a twin needle on it when I'm hemming, and I am keeping that stretchability. If you look at this top that I've done as well, I've actually cover stitched this hem, but look, if I'm holding onto it, look at the amount of stretch. My fabric is still stretching, but it's not distorting, and that's what I love. It's stabilizing that hem for me. And on my more stretchy fabrics as well, what I love about it, while I'm sewing it, it's not stretching out that fabric for me. It actually keeps the shape of that fabric without actually stretching it out. So this has really become my go-to interfacing. And then I started using it now on my softer woven fabrics as well. Remember, if we're looking at interfacing, we've got to look at the drape of my fabric. The softer my fabric, the softer I want my interfacing to be. My firmer fabrics, where I want more of a firmer stabilizing, I've got to look at a stable or a let's say a stable, I want to say almost a slightly thicker interfacing, but it's not necessarily thicker, it's just a more stable interfacing. And that one I use in my shirt collars, I use it in my cuffs. Perfect for your men's shirts where you've actually need that stiffer collar as well. For my plackets in front, even my waistbands on my pants, I would go and use that because it actually keeps the shape. It is quite a nice firm stabilizing on that fabric that I have. Now looking also at going back to my softer fabrics, and yeah, I'm talking really about even my softer viscose fabrics, anything that's got a lot of drape. If we look at this fabric, if you just see this fabric, look at the drape of this fabric. Now if I need to stabilize anywhere, let's say I'm going to do buttons in the front, and on that placket I need to go and stabilize so that it's not distorting when I am wearing my shirt, where the button is not pulling open too much or putting stress basically on that fabric, on that area. Then I will again go to my knit. I've decided this is my go-to one. So even though it's for knit fabrics and it's a knit stabilizer, look how beautifully it actually this interfacing works on the soft fabric. I've still got that soft movement, that soft, almost that soft drape that I still want to keep. I don't want this soft top and this really stiff collar or front placket that's going to be pushing away from my body. So I'm very much aware of that. If I'm working with my soft fabrics, I need a soft interfacing, and that's how I want you to look at it as well. Look at your drape of your fabric, look at the result that you want as well, and then decide on the interfacing that you're going to work with. Now the other one that I also do use quite a bit, and this is my Firmware Stabilizer. This is our cotton. It's actually 100% cotton stabilizer, and it is more, let's just open it. It's still not that really hard stabilizer, but it is firm enough so that I'm going to get that really nice collar or cuffs that I want. And I said especially on our men's shirts as well, or our waistbands. So this is the other one that I use. And these two knives become actually my go-to interfacing that I work with. And what we're going to do with these ones as well, we actually did make a kit, so I will go back to the kit. And on that one as well, in your kit, we are going to give you the information on the stabilizers. It's actually a Vilene interfacing that we are using. So I will put that information in there as well. I'm just going to give you my use of this. I'm not going to go in technical detail on how interfacings and that work. Then lastly, the last bit that I do want to show you, I just want to see where I've put it, is for stabilizing when I'm sewing with, let's say I'm doing decorative sewing. I'm going to use my decorative stitches. And remember, I'm a garment sewer. So if I work decorative stitches, let's say onto my tops again, around the necklines or anywhere where I actually just want to give a bit of detail, I've got to make sure that it's not going to scratch on my body at the end of the day, whatever I'm going to be using to stabilize. And I do suggest stabilize that area because of the stitches that we're doing. If it is a softer fabric, it tends to actually pull in that stitch a little bit, and I'm getting these little puckers, or it looks like it's pulled in or almost tunneled it. So as soon as I do my stabilizing on it, I find that I get a beautiful stitch. And then what is lovely, I go and use the Avalon Plus because it's water soluble and it just washes away, just leaving my stitches behind on my fabric. Now a lot of you will already say, okay, I know about the Avalon Plus if you are a machine embroidery person. So this is what we also use for our machine embroidery, but this has become my go-to in my stash. It is for my decorative stitches. If I'm working buttonholes on sheer fabric like this or my chiffons, I make sure that on that buttonhole area I put a bit of Avalon Plus. It just stabilizes my fabric for me while I am doing my buttonhole. I've even used this on my overlocker. You know, when we sometimes do our roll hem on our overlocker and it's a chiffon fabric or a sheer fabric, and as you're sewing, your fabric tends to slide out from under the foot, and you've got areas where you actually didn't catch the thread on your fabric and the roll hem almost looks like it's hanging off your fabric. Now I've found that working with this gives me perfect roll hems. All I do, I go and I cut a strip of this wash away stabilizer, and I put, just as I'm sewing, I actually just put it on the fabric and I'm just guiding it, and always I get a perfect stable roll hem on those soft sheer fabrics. And again, I can just go and I just wash it out, or I just put it in a bit of water and it is going to then just dissolve. So I don't have any of these almost like pieces of the stabilizer sticking out if I had to go and trim it, for instance, with another stabilizer. And another one that I use this for as well, and you can see I keep going back to this, I've got so many uses for this. When I do my hems on my knits as well, if I'm now I'm talking about on my cover stitch, even if you're working with a twin needle or just your normal needle, you know where our seam on the side is, where we've got that thicker seam. Now with a knit, if I'm going over the thicker seam, sometimes it's almost as if it's just pulling because of that thickness. It's just pushing that fabric a little bit, stretching it a little bit more, and I can get that. I find that I get skipped stitches even with my cover stitch as well. And now with this, just putting it over a little area when I know I'm going to go over that area with this Avalon, it again stabilizes my fabric there. It just almost slides over the Avalon Plus without stretching my fabric there. So every time I do get a perfect cover stitch. And like I said, even with my sewing machine, when I use my twin needles, I still get that perfect stitch. It's not, sometimes it doesn't even skip, let's say, put it that way. Sometimes I don't even get a skip stitch. That stitch just looks a lot longer than the rest of my stitches, and it's purely because that fabric is stretched out with the presser foot pressing against that thicker part of my fabric. So I've always got a use for this, and I've got about 2 meters with me, and like I said, I cut it maybe in 1 centimeter strips. That's all I need when I am working with this, unless now it's my decorative work that I'm going to do. So these are my go-to stabilizers and interfacings that I work with when I'm doing my garments. And now what we've done now with this product, we actually made a kit for you. So in the kit, what we've done, I've just got to think now, we've put in for you 2 meters of the black knit interfacing. I've put 2 meters of the white knit interfacing. We've put 1 meter of the cotton interfacing, and then we've also done 2 meters of the Avalon Plus, which is more for my decorative work, my buttonholes, anything like that. And we've made it up as a kit for you. Now for this weekend, we are going to actually do the kit at a discounted price for you. We want to do this with all our Friday feature products. We will launch it or put the video out for you on a Friday, and then until the next week, the Monday, so it gives you 3 days, we actually mark it down so that you can then buy this product and add it to your stash. This will be available on our online store at surefordesigns.co.za. You can choose the option for delivery or pick up as well, whatever you want to do. So we will then get your kit ready for you, and you can come and collect it. I just want to grab my paper. I did write down here. So the kit comes to 315 Rand. Now what we are doing until Monday, the 9th of August, we are marking the kit down to 275 Rand. So you're basically getting 1 meter of this knit interfacing for free. That's how it works out. So you are saving basically with that 1 meter now. And you can go ahead, place your order, and if you want to even maybe get 2 for yourself, because this is really something that you will keep going back to and that you are going to be using. I hope that you'll be joining us every Friday now to see what we are going to be showing you on our product range that we do have, because we have a lot of goodies that we actually import as well from overseas. And I know a lot of you don't even know we've got half of these products. So we are actually going to be featuring these products and showing you what we have and why we have it, why we want to use it. Because when we're sourcing from overseas, I literally look at what I want to use, something that I can't find in South Africa, and it's something that I really want because I know it's going to make my sewing easier. So please follow along. Remember to go and subscribe so that you do get notifications when we are loading these videos for you. And then all I can say is that enjoy your sewing from now on, because this is going to make your sewing life so much easier, especially with our knit fabrics. Have a lovely weekend, and I'll speak to you again.